You're such a great crowd, you got quiet immediately. Thank you. Welcome, friends. It's so great to see all of you here today, standing up for tax fairness. I'm Terry Minow, Board Chair of Big Sky 55 Plus. Big Sky 55 Plus is an organization of Montanans of all ages, especially people age 55 and over, who are working for a better Montana. We believe in the dignity of people at all ages. We believe that working together, we can get more done than working alone. We believe taxes should be fair and adequate to fund the public services that make our communities strong. We are a nonpartisan organization, but we must not shy away from telling it like it is. Before the last legislative session, Republican Governor Gianforte's own Department of Revenue warned him that the increase in valuation of our homes would cause a major shift to homeowners. Since 1975, every time home values went up significantly, the legislature adjusted the tax rate for homeowners. They protected homeowners from shifting taxes off big corporations and onto homeowners. Not this year. This year, the Republican-controlled legislature and Republican governor chose to let the shift happen. I ask you, is it fair to shift taxes from multi-billion-dollar corporations like Verizon, Northwestern Energy, and Burlington Northern, on to struggling homeowners? Is it fair to increase taxes on homes while big business gets tax breaks? Is it fair to kill bills that would help renters and homeowners while passing tax cuts for the rich? We know this isn't fair. We've seen it, we've felt it, we know it. So what do we want?
Fair taxes!
That's right. Once again.
Fair taxes now!
One more time.
Fair taxes now!
You guys are good.
Come out, Gianforte!
Jane Weber from Great Falls knows that adequate and fair taxes are necessary to fund the services we all need. Quality schools, good roads and highways, safe communities, healthy public lands. She was a Cascade County Commissioner for 10 years. She knows how to write a budget and how important it is to have the funding to meet community needs. She is a candidate for the legislature because she knows Montana can do better. Jane Weber.
Thank you, Terry. What a beautiful sea of Montana taxpayers in this audience. Raise your hand if you own your own home.
We're lucky.
We are lucky. You know, I'm no tax expert, but my husband and I have a mortgage on our house, and you do too. And I think that makes us and qualifies us to be considered tax savvy, right? So you heard from Terry that the Republican supermajority and our Republican Governor Gianforte, they ignored the advice of their own Department of Revenue, who had recommended that they alter the tax calculation to equalize it for us homeowners. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. And you and I are bearing the disproportionate amount of taxes compared to our corporate folks in our state. You know, we're burdened with that tax. And many of those corporations, they don't even have their headquarters in Big Sky country. They're from other states, but they work here. They're reaping that tax benefit on our backs. And we homeowners have the direct impact felt in our own families and with our own buying power. As Terry said, I'm a former county commissioner. I know how to put our taxes to use, and I know how local government works. Last legislative session, the Republican supermajority and our Republican Governor Gianforte vilified local government. Our city and county governments were criticized constantly about how they spend our tax money for the benefits and the needs that we have in our local communities. That's not fair, and it's not accurate. Let's just remember, local government, city and county government, is the level that provides the services for the rescues that happen when our house is on fire. They provide the funding to fix the potholes in our roads. They grade our county roads. They provide the funds that are necessary for our public health departments, for public safety, and for our libraries, and for our senior centers too. It's our local government that does that, not our legislature. Local government struggles to fund the needs that we have in our communities. If you don't know about county government or talk to any county commissioner, you may not know that many counties have over 500 miles of county road to grade and maintain. Some of them do it with just a small handful of people. And many of the people that work in county government don't stay because they're enticed away by higher salaries in the private sector. So retention is a problem in county government too. So why are county and city governments so strapped for funding? Well, you might not know this, but years ago, the legislature actually capped the level of taxes that local government can assess us. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but as the value of our homes goes up, the number of mills that local government can assess goes down. And that's important. So by state law, also local government can only assess 1/2 the average of the rate of inflation for the previous 3 years. Local government is not keeping up with inflation. They're not able to actually provide the services we need and expect unless they get newly taxable income. And who provides the largest amount of newly taxable income to our counties and our cities? Large corporations. Large corporations like Northwestern and Calumet Refining in Great Falls. And get this, to add insult to injury, not only are these corporations getting this huge tax break by our Republican supermajority and our Republican governor, but a lot of them appeal and protest their taxes. And what they do is they say, hey, you need to look at what you're valuing my improvements on my corporation because I disagree and I think it's less. So not only are they getting the tax break from the Republicans from last legislative session, they also protest their taxes and want their own valuations to go down.
And at the same time, they're over there at the Public Service Commission, all Republicans raising our rates.
Yep, our utility rates. Thank you for that. That's bad. So let me just remind you also that when they actually protest their taxes, the counties and the cities cannot deploy those protested taxes to help us with our services. They hold up the deployment of those funds until legal battles are settled. And I gotta tell you, those protests sometimes take years. But here's the double whammy. Not only are the corporations getting that significant tax break from our Republicans, they're appealing for reduced valuations to lower their tax contributions. I ask you, is this fair? No! So I just want to say, what did the Republican supermajority and our Republican governor do to us? Oh, wait a minute. I think I need to rephrase that. So what did our Republican governor and our Republican supermajority do for us? Well, they did drop a bone on our doorsteps. It was a measly $675 tax rebate for homeowners. You got to file online, so I hope you have a computer. And the Republican supermajority and our Republican governor, they just recently extended the deadline for filing for your tax rebate. You need to request your rebate from getmyrebate.mt.gov before midnight tonight. So you have what, maybe 11 hours and 40 minutes to get that in there. You just need your 17-digit geocode from the Montana Cadastral. It's pretty simple, right? Right? What the heck? You know, here's what I think. The only way to get fair taxes is to vote them out. So let me hear you repeat that with me. The only way to get fair taxes is to vote them out. The only way to get fair taxes is to vote them out. You rock, and thank you for being here to talk about this important issue for all Montanans.
Thank you, Jane. You are inspiring. We look forward to having you in the legislature fighting for a better Montana for us all. The only way to get fair taxation is to elect champions of fair taxes like Jane Weber. I see a number of other people in the audience who are running for office. Please raise your hand if you're a candidate for elected office. Fabulous. Such fabulous news, such fabulous people. Brian Schweitzer was Montana's governor from 2005 to 2013. He announced his first campaign by throwing bags of money from those balconies onto these floors. He said he would not be beholden to big money and big corporations and the rich. Today he is here, yes. Today he is here because he will not stay silent in the face of the unfair tax shift caused by the 2023 Republican legislature and governor, former Governor Brian Schweitzer.
No, I've had a chance to visit with folks, and you expect that people would ask how Nancy's doing and how the kids are doing, and how's your new life up there at Seeley Lake, but nobody ever mentioned that. They look down and they look around and they say, "Where's Jag?" Well, you know, Jag made it to 16 and a half, but we have another border collie. His name is Kibby, and he's pretty active, as you might imagine. And last year we got an Australian Shepherd, and she's pretty active too. So Nancy and I are pretty busy. I'm here because I couldn't believe it. You know, I wrote an op-ed back in June, some of you read it, and I said, well, you know, when the Republicans are running for office, not just in Montana, but nationwide, they got two things that they say, right? I could wake you up in the middle of the night all across Montana. I could come to your bed and I could shake it at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I could wake you up and say, what is Republicans doing and what are they going to run for office saying? And you would wipe the sleep off and you'd say, well, they're going to have, let's see, smaller government, lower taxes. Wow. So here in Montana, we elected more Republicans than any time in the history of the state. You know that all the way back to 1889? We never had so many Republicans running the state as we do right now. And so they came to that legislative session and they rubbed their hands together because they were really ready to go. New governor and everything. And they noticed that the federal government had been sending lots and lots and lots, I can't say lots enough, of money to every state. Every state in the union had huge budget surpluses. Every one of them. California, budget surplus. New Jersey, budget surplus. Montana, budget surplus. $2.6 billion was lying there for their work. So they went to work, 87 days. And I don't know, have you been in Helena while the legislature's in session? Raise your hand if you have. Well, for those of you who live here, you know that during the legislative session, you can't get into a bar or restaurant in this town because the lobbyists are buying, you know, a lot of thick steaks and old whiskey, and they're getting the things that their corporations need. Actually, you know, Dan Bucks is here. He directed the Department of Revenue was here. Now, Dan would know, I forget these things because I'm back at the ranch. Dan, during 8 years that we were running this state, did we raise one tax or one fee on anybody in Montana? No. No, okay. All right. He would know. So they had a look around with all of that money, and they said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're the biggest government now in the history of the state. We're going to spend it like a big government. And so they spent more money than any legislature and any governor in the history of Montana. They're kind of for big government now. And so then they said, but we're also, what'd they say in the middle of the night, that person? Oh, we're for cutting taxes. Well, they looked around and they said, well, yeah, we're going to cut some taxes. So they thought, well, where are we going to cut taxes? Oh, I know. If you have $1 million worth of equipment, we're going to cut your taxes. Now, understand what $1 million worth of equipment. I see the governor. He spent some time over there in Great Falls a couple days ago, and he was at an equipment dealer. Well, that equipment dealer, of course, been a legislator, but never mind. He was at the equipment dealers, and he was bragging that now the farmers in Montana don't have to pay that property tax on that $1 million worth of equipment. And here I am, you know, as you know, I'm a third-generation farmer and rancher, and, you know, farmed and ranched in, you know, many counties in Montana, still do. And I'm trying to think, what are you talking about? Because the way it works with this equipment, and I'm not going to get into the weeds, but the way it works with this equipment is it's not $1 million to start with. If you bought $1 million worth of equipment this year, the Department of Revenue says, but we do wholesale, so it's automatically worth $500,000. And then they depreciate it at 15% per year. So if your equipment is 5 years old, you can have $5 million worth of equipment and not pay any tax on it. And this room that we have here, if it was full of farmers and I said, raise your hand in Montana if you have $5 million worth of equipment, not one hand would go up. Raise your hand if you had $3 million, not one hand would go up. By the time you get down to about $1.5 million, it would, but they're not paying that tax either. Capital gains. Raise your hand if you had a capital gains last year. Well, we got some. I paid some capital gains too. Don't pay much for capital gains. Well, you got a tax break, so that's 1% of Montana. That's okay, that was good. And then, oh boy, howdy. We looked around all the businesses in Montana and we said, boy, we got to cut your taxes. We've got to cut your taxes. And so they said, we're going to cut your property taxes by a lot. 11, 12, 13%. So yeah, they cut their taxes. And then when they got to you, the homeowners, those 450,000 residences in Montana with the largest budget surplus in history, and having more money than any time in history. I understand they cut some taxes because, oh well, you know, when you maybe didn't need all the money. But why the hell would they raise your taxes by 18%? Because that's what they did. So what were they thinking? Well, I don't know. In my op-ed that I wrote back in June, I said, okay, listen, you Republicans, it's clear you didn't mean to do this. Taxes, by the way, we all know taxes are complicated. Raise your hand if you are a Montana tax expert. Raise your hand. We have one, we have two, and at least one of them's lying. No, I mean, taxes are complicated. They're very complicated. And I said that, you know, that you made a mistake. You Republicans, you made a mistake and you raised the taxes on homeowners in Montana. You didn't mean to. I get that. So just call a special session. It'll only take one day. Do what they've done in Montana for more than 40 years. There's been appraisals every 6 years. Now we're down to every 2 years, and nearly every legislature that's come in for the last 40 years, they look at those appraisals and they say, oh, hey, look at that. Price of houses have gone up around here. We're going to have to do a multiplier so that we don't raise taxes on homeowners. We wouldn't want to do that. That's what we did for 40 years. But this bunch, they showed up and they said, well, look, yeah, it's going up. And the Department of Revenue, you heard that already. The Department of Revenue, Gianforte's own Department of Revenue, they warned them 2 months before they came in, unless you change that multiplier, price of houses have gone up. Really, the price of houses have gone up in Montana, like they have every single year for 40 years. No, if you don't use a multiplier, homeowners are going to pay higher taxes. Well, so 2 months later, they showed up, and of course then, you know, the whiskey got poured from those $400 bottles, and those thick steaks came out, and all of those corporate interests that were flying in here from every dang place around the country, and they were all getting their tax breaks, and they ran out of time. So they got to the end, and they said, oh my God, we didn't do anything about homeowners. Well, that's all right, we're going home. So I suggested to them, well, you made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake, right? And taxes are complicated. Tell you what, just call a special session. Come in here for one day, don't even spend the night, don't take any of that thick steak and old whiskey to do anything else that you might have up your sleeve. Just make sure that homeowners don't have their taxes go up. Do that in one day. Now think about this. This is like a family in Montana, and Dad walks into the kitchen, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and the kids are supposed to be in bed, and he looks, and there's his 8-year-old, and he's got his hand in the cookie jar. And he says, Steve, what are you doing with those cookies? I don't have any cookies. Well, I can see the cookies. They're in your hand. They're my sister's cookies. That kind of sounds what the Republicans are doing right now. The cookies, you can see them in you got a letter in the mail that told you your taxes are going to go up, right? Did you get that letter? Yeah. Okay. They said, forgive, no, we didn't. No, we didn't raise taxes. Well, dang it. People figured it out. So they said, well, no. We didn't cause that trouble. It's them dang county commissioners. They up and raised your taxes. Those county commissioners, you can't trust them. You can't trust those county commissioners. Well, now the county commissioners, I think roughly 80% are Republicans, something like that. After about a month and a half of this, they said, bullshit. We're not taking this anymore. And they sent them a letter and said, no, we didn't take that money. We took a very small, we can only raise the rate at half the rate of inflation. We didn't get that money. You took that money, and quit saying it. And by the way, they had to look around and they said to the governor, we're trying to figure out, this is a letter they sent to him, I don't know if you read it, we're trying to figure out how almost everybody in Montana had their taxes go up on their home, but you bought a mansion in Helena, and your taxes went down. And then they said, well, you looked at all the houses around you, that whole block, they all had their taxes go up, and your taxes went down. Now, this is Republican county commissioners wanting to know what the heck's going on around here. And I'm saying, it's good somebody's asking, isn't it? Well, yeah, no, it wasn't the county commissioners after all. They're saying, you know, it was the companies. These companies are important to Montana. And if we didn't give them that tax break, they were going to up and leave. and shut down all the jobs that we got in Montana. Because they just couldn't do business in Montana. It's getting so expensive to do business in Montana. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, well, are they talking about the refineries and the pipelines? Because I noticed when this governor took office, the price of gasoline in Montana was $2.20. And today it's over $4. So really, the refineries are going to close? They're going to shut down the pipelines when the gas is worth almost twice as much? Well, yeah, but it's not. No, it's not just the energy companies. No, it's not just it's the mines. You know, the mines would shut down. So I know a little bit about mining. Some of you know, I was chairman of the board of the largest mining company in Montana, Stillwater, and I know that 10 years ago, the price of palladium, which is what they mine, was $760 an ounce. Today, $1,250 an ounce. When this bunch took office, copper was $2.20. Today it's $3.60. We're going to shut down the copper and palladium mines? And I noticed, it wasn't long ago, I looked up Northwestern Energy. I pulled up their website, and they were bragging that this Northwestern Energy, they said, you know who they are, right? Okay. They said, shucks, we are the largest property taxpayer in Montana. We pay $174 million. And then they said, it says on their website, Burlington Northern is number 2. So this legislature said to Northwestern Energy, well, yes, we're afraid you're going to leave. We got to keep you in Montana. Well, I looked that up too, and I see that even though they are from South Dakota, 98% of their assets and their business income comes from Montana. 2% comes from South Dakota and Nebraska. I don't think they're going home. Well, what did we get from Northwestern Energy? We gave them a tax break. You heard about that, right? They have $174 million tax. We gave them a $19 million tax break per year. And they have proposed to raise your rate by 18%, which is $67 million. What did we get from that company? Nothing. Say that again? Okay, all right. Well, there's a new, no, people are getting on to that now. So the Republicans have changed their message just a little bit. You know, like the kid with the cookies. Got to change it, they catch you. You know, taxes are complicated, they now say. Saw Lou Jones just wrote an op-ed, and he's one of the smart guys in the legislature, as we all know, says so. He does. He says taxes are complicated, and it's taken us a lot of years to get where we're at right now. It's taken us 30 years to get where we're at today, and you can't fix it in one session. So during the last session, we knew that we couldn't fix it all, so we gave those tax breaks to those out-of-state corporations, and of course we had to raise taxes on homeowners. But what we need to do is we need to come back to Helena next session, and we need to overhaul our tax system. Remember, he said this happened over the last 30 years. And so, you know, I'm no political expert, so I got to look things up because I'm a farmer and a soil scientist, so I got to look this stuff up. But I noticed that during the last 30 years, the Republicans have controlled the House. You know the 100 people that make the budget every year? They've controlled it for 30 years, except for 2 years that it was tied. They've been in charge of this building for 30 years, and they say, just give us a little more time, and maybe we won't raise your taxes next time. No. Do you believe them? Well, yeah, but they say, we're giving it back to you. We're raising your taxes. They admit that now. We're raising your taxes. We don't know why that necessarily is complicated. We couldn't figure it out, but we raised your taxes, but we're going to give you a rebate. A rebate. Now, let me ask you this question. If we still have a budget surplus, still have $800 million sitting over here in this building, out of the 2.8, still sitting here. Why did they raise your taxes? And now they're saying, but we're going to give it back. It kind of sounds like they're trying to bribe you with your own money. Yeah. Isn't that what that's all about? Now, one of the years I gave $2 calculators to the legislature. Remember that, some of you? Said, okay, we got to balance budgets, and it's not that complicated, but we can do it with a $2 calculator. So I think we need to get that $2 calculator out again, because what we have going on right now is, largest budget surplus in history, cut taxes for the businesses, and raise taxes for homeowners. How does that make sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. And here's what's interesting. If you, by the way, there's a sign here that says something. Here we go. Oh, there it is. TaxShiftMT.com. Have you looked at that yet? Look, TaxShiftMT.com. Write that down or put it in your cell phone, because you know what that'll do? It'll tell you as an individual how much the taxes are going up on your home, but better yet, it tells you where your taxes are going from that increase. Now, all of this is still too complicated for the folks that were up on this second floor. I know that. And all of that is a little more complicated than they can understand down the hall. I know that. So today we're making it easy. As you can see, here is a Montana home. And what we've done is we've decided your Montana home to take money out of your Montana home and put it someplace else. We're going to put it someplace else. From your home to someplace else. These are your dollars. Where do we send it? Well, we raised your taxes $200 million. That's how much we raised. And we sent $120 million to out-of-state corporations with their tax breaks. Here it is. Now, you'll note that I do have a martini glass with dollar signs on it, and that's to honor the lobbyists in this town. All right, so that's 120. Where else did it go? Well, 80 million of it, a little smaller bag over here, 80 million of it went from your home to here. They sent it back to Helena. They sent it back $80 million. So they increased your taxes, gave a bunch of it to out-of-state corporations, and then they sent $80 million back here to add to the $800 million that they still have in the bank, an historic budget surplus for the middle of a session. What were they thinking? Now, do you remember who they blamed to begin with? Who was it they blamed? Jane? Okay. They blamed it on the county commissioners. This is how... That's how much the county commissioners increased taxes. Out-of-state corporations, from your house to them. From your house back to Helena, and from your house to the people in charge of your schools, and your firefighters, and your policemen, and your roads, and your communities. This much. Well, but they're giving you a rebate. Raise your hand if you're going to get a rebate. Oh, isn't that nice? They had you pay more taxes permanently, and then for the next couple of years, they're going to send you a few shekels back. You got to apply for it. You got to jump through a bunch of hoops. I don't know why they did that. But is everybody in Montana going to get some kind of a rebate on this? Not everybody? So I looked it up. And about 35% of Montana doesn't live in a home that they own. So it means 35% of the people who are paying more, well, they're not getting a rebate. Now, many of them are renting. Now, Nancy and I, we're fortunate. We sold a ranch and we bought some houses that we rent, and so we kind of know how it works. You figure out what your costs are, and then you charge the rent, right? Isn't that the way it works? Bad news if you rent. Your rent is going up because their taxes have just gone up. 35% of the homes in Montana. What about, let's see. Oh, I know. I called my title company. I've done a lot of work with them. And I asked them, would you do me a favor? Could you tell me how many of the homes in Montana are owned by a family corporation or a family LLC or a family trust that's irrevocable? They said, yeah, we'll look it up. So they looked at the last 5 years and they came back to me and said about 15%. Well, they don't qualify either. Don't qualify either. And so now we're 35 plus 50. Oh yeah, so we're at 50%. Don't even qualify. You had your taxes go up. You don't qualify even for a temporary rebate. I guess I'm going to ask you a question. Have you had enough? Well, you know, I've been getting calls from Republicans from all over the state. And when I go places, I might be down at Murdoch's getting something for the ranch, or I might be in town doing something, and people come up to me and they say to me, I'm a Republican, and I didn't vote for you. I say, well, I'm kind of backing up, looking maybe where I got a pistol, or what am I going to have to do? And they say, you're damn right. That's a bunch of bullshit that they did by raising the taxes. It's not just Democrats that are in this room today. There's Republicans in this room today. There's Republicans that said, with a budget surplus the greatest in the history of Montana, and you're raising our taxes 18%, get a $2 calculator. Here's what you need to do today. You need to call friends and family. And you need to get them to agree to write letters to your legislator. You need them to write letters to the governor and say, bring this legislature back to town and do the right thing. We're not asking for a tax break. We're just asking to keep our taxes the same. Can you do that? And you might have been thinking that some of these legislators that come here were supposed to represent the folks back home. But now you learned a lesson. If you want them to represent you, hire a lobbyist, get some thick steaks, pour them some old whiskey, and they'll represent you too. Go to work. Montana we're still in charge here. We still decide who we elect. We still decide who we not elect. And what we've got to do is look at these people that raised your taxes and say, never again. I see we've got some great candidates. Monica Trinnell's here. Jesse Mullen is here. Kev's here. Kev Ham is here. Listen, folks. Find out if they support your interests. God bless you, and go get them. Thank you. Let's put it back in your house.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. You can illustrate an issue like no one else. Let's give Brian another hand. And by the way, I wonder if you all remember that one reason why we have the budget surplus is that President Joe Biden appropriated money to states to help us deal with the coronavirus emergency that we were dealing with. And so that's the reason we had that extra money in the budget. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, President Biden. So thank you all for being here today. Along with rallying and lifting your voices, I ask you to do the following 3 things. Register to vote if you're not registered. Ask your children, your grandchildren, friends, and neighbors to register, and then educate them on which candidates support fair taxation and which don't. Join Big Sky 55 Plus if you're not already a member. Suggested contribution is $55. If you are younger than 55, you get a non-senior discount. Your suggested contribution is your age. There are envelopes at the table. there in the corner. Be sure you sign in so we can keep you informed on these issues as they develop. Vote. Please vote, vote, vote. Vote out the legislators who refuse to support fair taxes. Vote them out. Let's say that one more time. Vote them out. Vote them out. Go to our website, bigsky55plus.org, and spell out 55 and look at our voting record. We make it crystal clear who supports tax fairness and who doesn't. So let's end by making our voices heard loud and clear. What do we want? Fair taxes now. Once again, what do we want? Fair taxes now. Before we go, I'd like to thank the great staff of Big Sky 55 Plus for putting this rally together. Tully Olson, Jacob Bachmeyer, Jeannie Hansen, Margie McDonald, and Lila Clemenshaw, thank you for your good work. Thanks also to my fellow Big Sky 55 Plus board members. Raise your hand if you're in the crowd. Thanks again to Jane Weber and Brian Schweitzer, and thank you all for coming. What a great turnout. A special thanks to those who came from out of town and grab a bottle of water on your way out the door. Thank you, thank you, thank you.